Okay, today what we're going to do is finish up the chapter 3 handout. And I think I think I promised you guys we're going to do textbook problems, but this class is so short. We only got next week. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and we'll do the practice exam. The practice exam has multiple choice questions and some journal entries similar to what we just did. But just because of the time constraint, I think it'd be there's other things to go over. I'll put it that way. So we'll go ahead and we'll finish up the handout. Then I'll send out the practice exam. There'll be two parts to it, and we'll do the practice exam. And I'll send out the exam tonight. It won't be due until not this Friday, but the following Friday. So, okay. What am I doing here? Okay, so I gotta share my screen for one thing. Okay, so tonight we're gonna finish the chapter 3 handout. I think there's only one or two problems left on that, and then we're going to jump right into the practice exam. And the practice exam we'll do kind of do where you can get the extra credit points, and then also there'll be the written part too that we should hopefully we'll be able to get through all of them. We should be able to. Okay, so we're going to start out where we left off last time. There we go. I guess the last problem here is the second to last problem.
Yeah, we were on 9.
Okay. All right, 9. And this is a good one. This is basically inventory stuff, which is huge. And we're actually, the next chapter we're going to cover is going to be inventory. But inventory for a lot of companies like Walmart, Target, all that kind of stuff, it's absolutely huge. They really don't care about the stores or anything like that. It's all about the inventory and how they turn it over and all that kind of stuff. I was an auditor for about 3 years, and who knows why, but I became like an inventory specialist guy. I think like the first few jobs I was on, I did inventory, and so after that I always got inventory along with other stuff too. But so I became inventory guy, and inventory it's a hassle because you get two different things. You have stuff coming in all the time, and you have stuff going out all the time. So it's probably the most tricky of all of the, other than maybe cash. When it comes to auditing, especially, it's probably the most tricky of the accounts because what did you get in by year end, and what did you sell by year end, and all this kind of stuff comes into play. But the inventory itself is really pretty straightforward, and it's one of those things that I think most people kind of intuitively you just know that if you're running a business, this would be absolutely intuitive. I know that when my brother he bought out a music store. I actually worked with him to buy this place out. But anyway, I thought I was gonna have to go over a lot of inventory stuff with him about how all the costing, all that. Nothing. He understood it completely. Even though didn't know anything about accounting, he actually knew everything about inventory. So in some ways, it's a little bit more intuitive, I think, than some of the other accounts. Okay, so number 9, we're beginning inventory in the office supplies were $100. So we started out with $100. Additional 400 of office supplies were finished. Or purchase, I mean. Would that be where it was? I think it was. I don't know. My wife's an English professor. I really should have her look at these before I send them out. At year end, only 70 of the office supplies were left. Okay. That should be were, isn't it? I don't know. Anyway, so the question is, how much of the office supplies were used? And when you think you have it, yell out the answer or put it in chat.
Is it 430?
Yep. Yeah, so it's kind of like this, a beginning inventory. $100. We purchased another 400. So this is kind of a new term here, a little bit, the available inventory. So what we mean by that is that the total inventory they could have used was 500. That was the amount that was available for them to use. Now they didn't use all of it, and you know they didn't use all of it because they have an ending inventory. If they used all of it, there wouldn't be an ending inventory. So the available inventory was 500. The ending inventory, in other words, what was not used, let me move these over, was 70. So we're going to subtract that out. So of this inventory, the ending inventory, what was not used, was 70. So the inventory used must have been would you say 430?
Yeah.
So they could have used up to 500. That was what was available. The ending inventory, or what was not used, was 70. So the inventory used would be 430. So this would be uh-oh, Mark, you did something wrong. Marky's still doing something wrong. Okay. One thing, Marky's talking about himself in the third person. It's terrible. So that's how much the inventory was used. Now, coming down here, so we have the supplies account. Office supply, I'm sorry. So office supplies inventory, we had 100 sitting in that account. Bought another 400. Oops, sorry. Another 400. So that's where we got that 500 that was available sitting in that account. Okay. Now, so office supplies inventory. It's got a $500 debit sitting in there. We no longer have 500 of inventory though. We use 430. So we went down to 70. So we're going to take 430 out of that account. are we gonna take it out with a debit or credit?
Credit.
Yep.
And then the debit is an expense, supplies expense.
Yep. Yeah, you don't have to put the office on there either. I just put it on there because it's. So we gotta take 430 out of the account. And down here would be that 430 that we would take out. If we were to 70 left. So this so we got to take 430 out of that account. So add 500 in it. We took out 430. Now there's 70 left, which is what we want. There is only 70 left. You know, this is all that was left of it. So that's where that 70 comes in. And then we'll have supplies expense. And again, you know, I will not mark down. If you put in an expense in, that's fine. On office supplies or office whatever, staples or whatever it was. And that is here. And that will be the debit of 430. And so we will look to be expensing of supplies of 430. That probably makes it more confusing, but anyway, yeah, so these are the journal entries, and again, these are the ones we just make. We make, you know, quick, fast, quick. Okay, we used up 430 of supplies, office supplies. Take it out of office supplies. Expensive. And this is also a deferral that you actually bought the supplies earlier, but you didn't expense them all because you hadn't used them all. So there's still 70 of supplies that you'd already bought, already paid for, whatever, that you aren't expensing yet because you haven't used them yet. You're deferring that until a later period when you use them. Any question on that? And not to make you know, too big of a point out of this, but this ending inventory. So let's say that, so this is the ending inventory in 2021. What am I doing here? You do this differently. It was $70. I want you to notice something. That ending inventory in 2021 will become the beginning inventory. In 2022. So, you know, here's what the ending inventory would have been at the end of 12/31/21, the 70. When we go into the next year, that's going to be the beginning. You know, right after Happy New Year, done singing the song, and then this is the beginning inventory will be 70 starting the next year. Then we have purchases and ending inventory and all that kind of stuff. But the ending inventory from one year becomes the beginning inventory in the following. So they'll start out on January 1st, 2022 with $70 in inventory. Okay. Why it does this weird formatting thing? I'm sure there's a reason why. Maybe I have the font too big or something. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this one. And go ahead and do the whole thing. And then I'll put it up here in a minute. And you can just put supplies expense, that's fine. Or just supplies. So that's what you should have had. Believe for that one. So they had a total available inventory that they could have possibly used was 170. The ending inventory, what was not used, was 50. And so the inventory that was used was 120. So 120 left the place. So all that's left is a 50. So that's where that's where this 50 comes in. That is what was left. And that's what should be on our books for the inventory. Notice if we don't make this entry, if we forget to make this entry, we would show 170 in our supplies. Our assets would be overstated. And our income would be overstated because we don't have this expense. We look like we're more profitable than we really were because we didn't show that we used 120 of supplies. That's the last one, right? Okay. All right, I just sent out the practice exam part 1. And so I'm going to start the poll. I think there's only 10 questions here. Yep. Okay, so I'll start the poll and go ahead and enter them. Only those people that actually do the poll will get credit for it. You'll get extra credit points based on it, and don't be afraid to make a wrong answer. If you're not sure, put in your best guess, but don't leave anything blank, basically.
So are we supposed to be doing this now?
Yeah. I can't see what to do with my poll. I lost my poll. Oh, there it is. Okay. Is anyone still working on the poll? If you are, to say I am, or send me a text or something that you're still working on the poll. If you're not, then obviously don't send me anything. Okay, I'm going to assume no one else is working on the poll, so I'm going to close it. Okay. All right, so we're going to go through the answers here, and some of them are more difficult than others. The ones that are probably the most difficult are the journal entry ones, the debit this, credit that kind of thing. Now, there's actually, though, something that we can use when we're looking at this. Expenses are always going to be debits. Revenues are going to be credits. Okay, so we can use this to help eliminate some of the possible answers. So if it's an expense, it must be a debit. Okay, so coming down here, only those things that are expenses have debits are ones that are possible answers. Credit supplies, nope. Credit supplies, nope. Debit supplies expense, yep. So these, B and C, cannot be the answers. So expenses are always debits. Okay, so the question is whether it's A or D. Now I'm going to go over to the answer, and of the ones that we had available, you guys said D, so that is fine. So we will take that one. And yeah, you have to take 5,500 out of the account. Number 2, unearned revenue is a liability. That is correct. Adjustments for unearned revenue. Decrease liabilities and increase revenues. Correct. Number 4. Okay, again, this one. Only those expenses that are debits are possible. Excuse me. Oops. So what am I doing here? Oh wait, this one's possible. Debit rental. That one's possible too. Okay. Now, you can actually do elimination here. What do we know about journal entries? The debits have to equal the credits. So the debits and credits don't equal for this one. Let's put that. So you know it can't be that one. Debits and credits don't equal down here. Can't be that one. this one, you could actually answer. You guys got it correctly. You can actually answer this without even knowing what the problem says. You could have answered it without, you know. It could have been that. What's a great, you know. But yes, what you did had there is absolutely correct. That is going to be 3,000 a month. So you did 1 month's worth. That's 3,000, and that is absolutely correct. But yeah, but A, B, and D cannot be journal entries. Okay. If a company fails to adjust for accrued revenues, D is correct. We won't have the accounts receivable, and we won't have the, oh, I didn't mark this one. Hold on. Well, this is very good so far. Number 6, before year-end adjustments, Janus Company prepared prepaid insurance account balance $2,800. It determined that 20 of the prepaid insurance had expired. The just balance at year-end would be B. That is correct. I'm going to take 1,200 out of that, and that's what you'd be left with. Supplies on hand. This one I gotta. So the beginning inventory was 1,500. Oops. They purchased 2,900. Hey, how come that? So available was 4,400. And they used 28. Okay, so this is kind of like the opposite of the one we had before. So this kind of gives us the ending balance. If you subtract out what was used, ending inventory was, it's not on there. 16. Yeah, it's 1,600. One next one. Okay. This one, and that is what you guys have, so that is correct. Yep. $7,200 for 3 years. And there are ways you could do it. You could divide by 3 and then divide by 12, or you could divide by 36. But whatever the way it is, you guys got it right, so we don't need to talk about it. Nine. Yep. 9,000 divided by 5. Very good. Oops. +4. All right, I need to download this. This is an old gamer computer from my son. So. What am I looking for? Dust. Okay. Okay, so we are on to part 2, which you guys should have gotten. Okay, do you guys already have part 2?
Yes,
Okay, are you already working on it?
no.
Okay. All right. Well, let's. I gotta share my. Hold on, I gotta do something here. Okay. I fix these journals. I'll see. Maybe there's something wrong with them. You know, wacky formatting. So I fixed them out. I'll check on the exam and see if the formatting is better. Okay. Another inventory one. Oh, good. Good. Inventory kind of day. Okay. The inventory of office supplies total 230. 510 was purchased. Only 200 left. So how much did they use? We can figure that one out.
$540 was used?
Yeah. Yep.
Is that? Okay.
So that would be what our journal entry is for.
Is the table, like what you're typing in, do we have to put that on there too?
No, you don't.
Okay,
But here's the only thing, caveat and warning I'll give you. I would encourage you to write it out. And here's
Okay.
why. If you do something, if I can see what happened, it might be a math error, so it'd be like 1 point. But if I can't tell what happened, it might be like 3. But you don't have to label it and all that kind of stuff. If you put, 230 plus 510 minus 200, that's it. But again, if you put the right answer, it'll be correct. So there won't be any problem. Oops. And and part of the reason why I do it like this is because I people ask, well, where'd you get that number? Which is an appropriate question for taking the class. And again, the expense, it's an expense, it's going to be a debit. And all these we do have a revenue or expense. So in this case, if it's okay. September 1st, when your insurance policy purchased for $1,800. The entire policy was recorded as a debit to prepaid insurance, which it should have been. So we're glad that they're accounting for it correctly. All right, so 1 year policy of $1,800. So how much is it per month? Is that 150? 150? I want to check my math. No. Okay, so I think it's $150 per month. Times how many months do we have it for? This is actually where most people get the 150. The counting of the month is actually the trickier one, the trickier part of it. So how many months did they have it for in 2021? How many months were used up, I should say, in 2021?
4.
September, October, November, December, you are correct. So it's 4 months. $600. Okay. Insurance expense, debit or credit?
Debit.
Yep. Expense, it's all. Not spelled that way. So anytime you see expense, you know that has to be debit. And this will be prepaid insurance. This is an asset going down. You do not need to have to add this in there either. This is, first of all, it's not correct, but this is what I put in so that people can know what the why I'm debiting it or crediting. But again, if you guys know journal entries by now, that if you get one side, then you know if you know that one side's a debit and the other side's a credit for the same, for totally after you go. Okay, 13. Employees are paid $3,500 for a 5-day week. They are paid every Friday. I'm yawning. I'm boring myself. December 31st is on a Wednesday. Okay, so how much is it per day? So Monday through Friday is 5 days. $700 per day. And for how many days are they going to get paid for? Scratch that.
3?
Yeah, how many days are they owed for? They're not going to actually going to get paid yet. But yeah, they're owed for 3 days. Yep. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they're owed for. $2,100. Okay, so we know it's 21. And again, we're not paying them yet. We don't pay them till Friday. So we're making this journal entry on Wednesday. So we're not writing checks for this. There's no cash involved. Okay. What accounts are we going to use?
Gonna debit accounts payable
Close.
or accounts receivable then?
No, no,
No?
but we owe them. The payable is correct. But what's going to be the debit? When you pay employees, what kind of account are you probably going to be using?
Is that, I don't know.
Expense,
Yeah, probably some kind of what did I do here?
wages, expense.
Yeah, wages expense, salaries expense, something like that. And again, I don't worry about, if you just put expense on it, you just pay that thing, to be honest with you, because that tells it goes on the income statement. So this is, probably wages expense, what kind of expense. Now, again, we know that if it's an expense, it's going to be a debit. And so always you're going to have either a revenue or an expense. So think about whether it's going to be a revenue or expense. And once you figure that out, the actual debits and credits aren't too bad because, again, if it's a expense, it's a debit, if it's a revenue, it's a credit. Whatever goes on the other side is going to be, the other half. So in this case, the other side is going to be, well, you said accounts payable, probably wages payable, but accounts payable is absolutely fine. It's that you owe somebody. So, on a test, don't worry about whether it's wages payable or accounts payable. Payable is the magic word there. And this is a liability. And here's the tricky part. Is the liability going up or down?
Going up.
Oh, yeah. Yep. We owe more, right? We owe the employees $2,100. So our liability is going up, and so are the expenses. All right. Prepare the journal entries for 12/31, blah, blah, blah. Machine was purchased for $1,200. No, $12,000. It'll last for 5 years. So how much are we going to depreciate every year?
$2,400.
Yep. Which is so it's be a depreciation expense per year. All right, and again, this is a morbid. When it's end of its life, it will be dead. So that's how you remember the journal entry. It's always the same for depreciation. Depreciation expense. And again, it's an expense. Oops. All those is going to be that. 2,400. And accumulated depreciation. And again, this accumulated depreciation is kind of wacky because it's a contra account. It's going up, but it's actually decreasing the assets. So it's going contra to the asset. And the asset in this case would be the machine equipment going down. Okay. Let's make it more. I should make that more grand. There we go. At year end, unearned revenue totaling 2,580 had been earned. Okay, well, let's take the easy way. Revenue, obviously it's going to have some kind of revenue, right? So revenue account, will it be a debit or a credit?
Credit.
Yeah, my not so subtle hint is that it's going to, so we know that this is going to have a revenue in it. Unearned revenue and revenue go together. So we know that the revenue is going to be a credit. Revenues are always credits. So if it's a revenue, it's a credit. If it's a expense, it's a debit. Now we know the other side is going to be, what's the other account we're going to use here? Which is a little bit of a tricky account.
Unearned revenue, so liability.
Yeah, exactly. Unearned revenue really isn't a revenue at all. Unearned revenue is a liability. It's when someone pays you ahead of time. So this is a liability. And it is going down. We've actually earned. And so you can't think of this as unearned revenue. And this is say revenue, earned revenue, or revenue earned. You want to put that in this line too. Can't by definition, revenue is considered earned. But if you put earned revenue, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I have seen that as financial statements, earned revenue. So unearned revenue really isn't revenue at all. It's a liability. Maybe a bad choice of words, but that's the way that's what we're working with. And then, oh wait, I didn't even put the number in here. Oh, okay, let's see. 2,000. Again, but if you know the revenue, you know, revenues are always credits, so you know. Okay, revenues, hey, 1,230 urban not billed. Okay, yippee, we have a revenue here. For and say yippee because revenues, you can say this is earned. Earned revenue or revenue earned, either ones. Or just revenues. Okay, so we know what the credit is. If there's a revenue involved, there is. We know that it's a credit. And what's going to go on the other side? So we earn this money, $1,230, but we haven't billed it yet. Maybe we're not done with the job, but we've done $1,230 worth of the work. You know, maybe it's a $2,000 job. We did $1,230 worth of the work. We're probably not going to bill them until we finish it. So, you know, we've done this work, but we haven't actually billed them yet. What account do you think we're probably going to? I'm sorry, what did you say?
Unearned revenue.
Nope. Now, this is different than unearned revenues when they paid us ahead of time. This is the kind of the other end of it, in that we've done the work, we haven't been paid yet. So what is it when you do the work, but you haven't been paid? I'll give you two choices. It's either accounts receivable or accounts payable.
Okay, that's accounts no, accounts receivable.
Accounts receivable, yep. Yeah, they owe us, you know, this money. We haven't billed them yet for it, for whatever reason. And that's an asset going up. Oops, I didn't put the dollar amount in. Oh, that's it. Any question on that? I can't remember exactly a test. I think there's 5. I think it's 5 and 5. I think there's 5 multiple choice questions and 5 adjusting entries. It's a shorter test, but I think it's theoretically maybe more. It's theoretically more challenging. Maybe there's 6 or 9. I can't remember. But anyway, any questions on the practice test? So I think I'm gonna go ahead and send that out. And again, the due date will be. Oh man, we're running right up against it. What was the last day of this session? Can't remember. Was it July 9th or something? I'll look it up. I think next week's our last week, our last regular week. And I probably have like a week to get the grades in, so we have a little bit of time afterwards. But anyway, so I'll make it for the end of next week. Turn it in. Right. Question? Okay, so I'll put in the chapter 3 stuff. It'll all be due a week, next week, Friday. I may encourage you to get it in earlier, not because of anything on my end, but because the stuff from next week is going to have to be turned in fairly quickly. So it might be a good strategy to clear the decks to make room for the new stuff coming in. But okay. So here's what's going to be posted. It's going to be the chapter 3 handout. we just finished. The chapter 3 practice exam part 2 that we just did. Part 1 you don't have to submit because I already got your responses to the poll, and if you took the poll, you'll get the 4 extra credit points. And then the exam. Any questions? No. I told you this wasn't going to be a fun chapter, and I didn't lie about it. All right, well, I'll send you guys out the exam tonight, and again, it'll be due on a week from Friday. Okay, guys, have a good evening. I'll see you.
You too. Good night. Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
See you.